you for joining us on CGTN special program, China Chronicles 2024. I'm Xiao Yang in Beijing. And today we'll revisit the headlines that shaped our lives and the stories that touched our hearts. We'll journey through the laughter and tears, the milestones and memories, which collectively painted the portrait of a year like no other. So now let's journey back through 2024.
From determining national tasks in the Central Economic Work Conference to deepening reform policies in the third plenary session. From intensive diplomacy to groundbreaking innovation. For China, 2024 has been a year of milestones and momentum. How does the third plenary session set the course for China's future? What do the bold economic policies mean for the country and the world? How does China's diplomacy reshape alliances and global partnerships? And how is the country pushing the boundaries of science and technology? Join us as we review the events, stories, and defining moments shape 2024.
Well, 2024 has been a year of remarkable achievements for the Chinese economy. The country has made steady progress in reforms, innovation and balanced development, setting the stage for high-quality growth and modernization. Let's start with a closer look at the key milestones that defined this year. At the 20th CPC Central Committee's third plenary session, President Xi Jinping called for deepening reforms to build a high-standard socialist market economy by 2035, fostering high-quality development and addressing risks in real estate, local government debt and financial stability. He also emphasized balancing ecological conservation with economic growth. At the Central Economic Work Conference in Beijing, Xi reviewed China's 2024 economic achievements, analyzed current conditions, and set the priorities for 2025, highlighting progress in high-quality development and major social economic goals. Xi also made key strategic directives during his inspections across various regions. He urged advancing new productive forces in Tianjin, strengthening advanced manufacturing in Hunan, accelerating the Chengdu-Chongqing economic circle, and integrating real and digital economies in Shandong. Xi also stressed optimizing the business environment in Qinghai, upgrading industries in Gansu, deepening reforms in Fujian, achieving technological self-reliance in Anhui, and balancing traditional and emerging industries in Hubei. Well, it has been a year of decisive economic actions in China, from tackling the housing market slump to easing local government debt and revitalizing consumer spending. Several bold policies have reshaped the economic landscape. But how far have these measures driven meaningful change? Well, CGTN's Yang Chengxi takes us through the numbers and the stories behind them.
This year, China introduced a series of economic stimulus policies targeting three areas: the housing market, local government debt, and consumption. But have these worked? Let's start with the real estate sector. Measures include easing or removing purchase restrictions in certain cities, as well as lowering mortgage rates and down payment requirements.
Officials say the housing market has shown positive signs in recent months, with increased home viewings and rising sales volume in many cities.
This is a sales office for a real estate project in Suzhou, a city in eastern China.
After visiting, I felt this apartment really met my needs. It also offers a 0.3 percentage point interest rate reduction, which I was able to benefit from.
In November, Suzhou saw over 10,000 new homes being sold, a 17.5% increase compared to last year, and a 27.6% jump compared to the previous month.
The market is clearly on the rise. Transaction volumes are increasing, and prices are stabilizing, signaling the end of the decline. As confidence grows, both sales volumes and prices are expected to climb further.
Chinese real estate officials said in October and November, the online contracted area of newly built commercial housing nationwide saw year-on-year and month-on-month grow for 2 consecutive months. For years, land sales have been a major source of revenue for many local governments in China. But the real estate market's struggles have weighed on land sales, putting pressure on some local governments to manage their debts.
The problem with local debt is that it often carries higher interest rates and lacks transparency, which poses extra risks if not carefully managed.
In November, China announced a 10 trillion yuan or $1.4 trillion debt package. It allows local governments to borrow more over the next 3 years to restructure their hidden debts. They can also use 4 trillion yuan from previously approved funds over the next 5 years for the same purpose.
By 2028, the total hidden debt local governments need to resolve will drop sharply from 14.3 trillion yuan to 2.3 trillion yuan.
Officials believe this will help local governments resolve debt issues and free up resources for areas that impact people's lives, such as boosting consumption.
From home appliances and consumer electronics to cars, local governments across China are offering financial incentives to encourage consumers to trade in old goods for discounts on new ones. If you replace an old vehicle, you could receive a subsidy of up to $2,100 for a petrol car or $2,800 for an electric one. This year, nationwide vehicle trade-ins surpassed 5 million cars.
The trade-in program treats domestic and foreign companies equally, reflecting China's commitment to an open market and fair competition.
Similar subsidies are also available for home appliances, boosting sales in shopping malls across China. Data from the Ministry of Commerce shows that since the policy's implementation, consumers have purchased nearly 50 million units across 8 categories of household appliances.
In addition to government subsidies, major home appliance companies are also offering their own discounts to consumers, which could enhance their brand value.
From housing and debt to consumption, China's government is using targeted stimulus policies to tackle economic challenges. Chinese officials report that China's economic growth this year accounts for nearly 30% of global growth. Amid slowing global expansion and rising geopolitical risks, China's steady economic expansion is a stabilizing force for the global economy. Yang Chengxi, CGTN, Beijing.
Joining us in the studio now is my colleague Wang Mengjie. Mengjie, so the annual Central Economic Work Conference was held in Beijing this month, and Chinese leaders looked a little ahead. They decided the priorities for the economic work in 2025. So can you give us some details on this?
Of course, Joyang, at a recently concluded Central Economic Work Conference in Beijing, Chinese leaders outlined the country's key economic tasks for next year. 9 focal points have been highlighted, ranging from boosting consumption to promoting rural revitalization and improving people's lives. The meeting called for the implementation of a special campaign dedicated to stimulating consumption. For technological innovation, it noted the need to strengthen basic research for breakthroughs in core technologies. The meeting also called for a deepened reform of state-owned enterprises. In addition to expanding high-stand open up while keeping foreign trade and foreign investment stable, the meeting stressed the need to effectively prevent risks in key areas, such as the real estate market. Efforts should also be made to strengthen implementation of regional strategies and ramp up the green transition in economic and social development. The meeting urged efforts to ensure the stable agriculture production and increase agriculture's competitiveness, while doing everything possible to expand the channels for farmers to increase incomes. To improve people's well-being, the meeting stressed the policies to strengthen assistance for industrial development and employment, to prevent large-scale lapsing or relapsing into poverty, and to meet the basic needs of people in difficulty. As 2024 draws to a close, China's agriculture production has secured another milestone, with its grain output reaching a record high of over 700 million tons. In a January-September period, per capita disposable income of the country's rural residents reached more than 16,000 yuan, or about $2,300, a 6.3% increase from a year earlier. All 832 previously impoverished counties have developed unique leading industries like rural tourism to help create new growth drivers and improve living standards. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Meng Jie. Well, China's economy sustained its growth momentum this year, underpinned by its continued pursuit of new quality productive forces. As CGTN's Zhong Shi spoke to two leading autonomous driving service providers to find out how their use of advanced technology is easing urban transportation.
The future is here. That's what you'll most likely feel when you get a car service here in Beijing with no one behind the steering wheel. I've got to admit, I'm feeling a little nervous riding in a driverless taxi for the very first time. But it is reassuring to know that the service provider WeRide has been operating for years without a single major accident. I spoke earlier to the company's marketing director, Maeve Zhang. Ms. Zhang, pleasure to have you.
Welcome to our robobus.
Thank you so much.
Please have a seat.
Zhang says innovation is vital to her company's long-term ambitions.
More than 90% of our employees are engineers. So you can see we are really, like you mentioned, tech-centric.
Driverless cars have to navigate complex city roads. Contrary to what most people think, these self-driving vehicles are making commutes safer with the power of artificial intelligence.
So we will use these deep learning algorithms to train our perception and computer vision algorithms and to imitate the real case. Our robobus can safely navigate so the passengers can enjoy their ride.
Zhang calls new quality productive forces a key driver of the economy that can also empower WeRide's business partners.
It is a benefit for our upstream and downstream partners. As we develop our business, our vendors, they can also scale up their business.
Over at Apollo Go, another driverless ride-hailing service launched by internet giant Baidu, technological innovations are highly valued, shown by these 6 generations of autonomous vehicles. Their collaboration with car makers has shifted from international brands to domestically produced new energy vehicles.
As a typical example of smart, connected, and shared transportation, Apollo Go has been consistently promoting the development of the new energy vehicle industry. You can see that all the vehicle models used by us are NEVs.
Wu believes new quality productive forces such as autonomous driving are going to reshape the auto industry, facilitating upgrades and progress conducive to further industrial growth.
Autonomous driving will change the structure of the industrial chain of the automotive industry and the market, giving a bigger push to the entire sector.
Driverless ride-hailing service providers like Apollo Go certainly seem poised to energize the automotive industry with its push towards smarter and safer transportation. I hitched another driverless ride, my second in the day. By now, my first-time jitters had dissipated and I felt much more secure. Baidu has logged over 100 million kilometers in autonomous driving tests without a single major accident resulting in severe injuries. By the end of October this year, Apollo Go had registered over 8 million orders for driverless ride-hailing services. At the end of the day, innovative technologies serve to make people's lives easier and better. And that's exactly why China endeavors to deliver high-quality development using new quality productive forces. Zhong Shi, CGTN, Beijing.
The third plenary session of the 20th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China reiterated the importance of China's private economy. The sector has long been a driving force behind China's economic growth, creating jobs and fueling innovation. As some positive figures from the sector in 2024, private investment has increased by over 6% year-on-year during the first 10 months of this year, whilst industrial output from large private enterprises has grown by more than 5%. Exports from the private sector also saw a significant rise, up by over 9%, outpacing overall trade growth. In addition, China has pledged to deepen reforms for better management of foreign investment. As of November 1st, the country has lifted all market access restrictions for foreign investors in the manufacturing sector, marking a historic move by the world's second-largest economy to further open its doors. The 2024 edition of the negative list for foreign investment now reduces the number of restrictions from 31 down to 29 and achieving zero restrictions in the manufacturing sector. Economic headwinds and geopolitical uncertainties have overshadowed investments around the world, and China is no exception. But China enjoys some resilience thanks to its huge market, as well as policies that keep it an attractive investment destination. My colleague Wang Mameng spoke to insiders to explain the rationale.
A core technology and a century-old brand. Bremse means brakes in German.
This demonstration helps visualize how real vehicles brake to a standstill. Now, these two different products are used in China's extensive networks of metro lines and high-speed trains, which can go as fast as 360 kilometers per hour. From small parts like these, the company has expanded its footprints across the country.
Its 30-year-long presence here bears witness to the transformation of China's opening up. Playing the local card has been an essential strategy for the company from the very beginning.
We see opportunities there in being in China, but to have a high degree of localization, allowing us to produce and design the equipment here. We have more people in China than we do in our home country of Germany. So basically, we've become a Chinese company.
German firms are the top source of China's FDI in 2024. Their investment increased by almost 11%, while some others chose to reconsider their commitments.
China has a saying that the birds will find the right tree to flock and also make nests. The international companies are really the birds. How to attract those birds and what type of birds you would rather select depends on how you grow the tree and what type of trees you grow and how do you maintain this type of tree.
A major maintenance project came into play this year. Authorities removed all market access restrictions for foreign investors in the manufacturing sector and further slashed the number of items on China's negative list to 29. A wider door means more players. Are Chinese companies ready for the competition?
At the beginning, when China joined the WTO, there was a huge debate with regard to whether Chinese companies could successfully dance with wolves, which means multinational companies. But now many Chinese companies become wolves themselves by dancing with wolves.
And we think we want competition to spur us on, develop new products, and we want to be part of that market going forward. So we don't really see it as a threat. We relish the competition to get even better.
So the wolves agree that competition will bring more dynamics to the market. But still, the elephant in the room.
For me, the key point will be, can we have the level playing field going forward? And that's what I'd like to see.
It is really up to China to continue to improve its business environment, to have more of the rule of law, and to convert more of the policies into more predictable rules of law.
Well, some may have hit the brakes, but others haven't stopped believing. Wang Mameng, CGTN, Suzhou.
Now for some analysis, we're joined in the studio by Chu Qiang, a fellow from the Belt and Road Research Center at Minzu University of China. Mr. Chu, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. It's great to have you here. So we've looked at what China has delivered this year in terms of our reforms, innovation, some of the high quality growth focal points this year. What's your assessment overall of China's economic scorecard in 2024?
Well, I think we're doing pretty okay. If you take a look at the whole performances of China this year, I think the number one keyword is stabilization. Come on, this is very much a turbulent world. I think stability is something we really feel luxury for. And if you take a look at the China's performance domestically, well, we have been achieving 5% of the GDP growth, which is such a large GDP size already, with such a large population in the market. 5% of the GDP growth is already phenomenal among all the competitors in the whole world. And secondly, taking a look at the potential risks. I think the Chinese government focused very much on how we can defuse the bond, how can we make sure that the local borrowing can be safe, housing market to be safe, and stock market can be very much stabilized. And to take a look at the stock market, well, you start at 2,700 points at the beginning of the year, but now it's stabilized at 3,400 points. And housing market in big cities has already been stabilized. I think the expectations has turning to really well next year, and also a local government has been turning very positive towards next year's fiscal condition. So stabilization is key, and also towards the whole world. Chinese economic growth actually has been prop up the world economy. Every point in GDP growth in China prop up like 0.3% of the GDP growth of the whole point, and China has made a very positive growth in export plus the import. That's providing a huge import and export market toward the whole world. Come on, this is a 400 million middle income class of the whole world that everybody wants to get a pie into. And also, not only with the stability, I think China, what they do is still giving the whole world imagination. Stay tight with high technologies. Well, recently we've been hearing too much about the tragedies of aviation, but China, well, fortunately, had giving some good news out there, right? Well, we have like very sci-fi style 6th generation fighter and a bomber jet, and also we have independent IPR of the C919 big commercial jet, and also we have the digitalization, AI progress, and also autopilot driving route has been coming out in Beijing and Wuhan and Shenzhen. Many big cities has already seen driverless cars. Letting alone we have the low altitude economy. You see the drones flying around, forming a very scientific, scientific fiction-like, logistic network by the drone robots. How cool is that? So I think it gives people imagination, and letting alone we're going to have our astronauts going on the moon, the second one in the human history. So let's keep on imagination, but still standing very tight and firm on the solid ground.
So how then will China sustain or even improve on all these achievements in the coming year? How do you interpret the signals that came out of the Central Economic Work Conference earlier this month?
Well, I think number one priority is consumption. That's definitely for sure, because we really want to put back more of the money into the pocket of a normal household. So that's the reason why we focus very much in the central government conference is how we can create more jobs, stabilize the private sectors, especially the SMEs, providing very favorable loans towards them. So expectations plus asset prices plus the jobs, I think can be the answer. And I think secondly is how we can focus on what we call the high quality productive forces, like we just mentioned. We still need to have this imagination leading people towards the future, right? Green economy still been evolving very fast. AI in China, integrated circuits, semiconductors, even though some countries still trying to block China, but we've been experienced worse back in the 1960s, but still we get the nuclear bombing and also satellite up in the sky. So China still can manage to have its own semiconductor industries and AI leading the world. And also, thirdly, not only the high tech, but also we pay attention to normal people. Like we try to balance the rural area and the urban area to form a unified national market to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor, between the East and the West, so that we can have more consumption powers in the future. So this is, just one page of many pages in this book, letting alone we have the renewable energies, green tech, international development. So just wait and see next year.
So an imaginative 2025, that's what we've got to look forward to, right? Thank you so much, Mr. Chu Qiang with the Minzu University of China. Well, 2024 has also been a year of strategic global engagement for China, with President Xi Jinping's 4 overseas visits highlighting the nation's commitment to multilateralism. With the rise of the global south, China is promoting an inclusive world for the greater good. Zhao Yunfei reports.
In 2024, President Xi Jinping's trips abroad drew a guideline for world peace and development. The Chinese president's attendance at international events have built closer ties, boosted cooperation, and brought unity to the global community.
全球南方群体性崛起，是世界大变局的鲜明标志。
The collective rise of the global south is a distinctive feature of the great transformation across the world. Global South countries marching together toward modernization is monumental in world history and unprecedented in human civilization.
This year marks the starting point of the greater BRICS era. President Xi called for more open and inclusive Global South cooperation. President Xi's presence at several multilateral events, the SCO, APEC, and G20, has shown China's vision to tackle global issues with joint efforts.
China offered to entire world peace, offer development, offer the fair trade, offer the reconstruct of international order. And President Xi Jinping offered that hope and offered a very constructive suggestion.
This kind of mechanism, they are focusing more on multilateral level rather than bilateral level. The challenges we are facing, they should be solved or they should be faced or they should be tackled by a group of countries.
Practical cooperation has seen positive outcomes. In Kazakhstan, President Xi watched the opening ceremony of the China-Europe Trans-Caspian Express. In Peru, he joined the opening ceremony of the Chancay port via video link. The infrastructure projects are expected to benefit regional growth.
He's telling the world that China wants a free trade, a global trade, and don't want protectionism measures. So that was very inspiring and very interesting to listen that China is taking the leadership in the future of the world.
Head of state diplomacy cements personal bonds. President Xi was invited to take in the beauty and charm of the Pyrenees Mountains during his state visit to France.
Tarbes is a small town in the southwest of France, and this is a unique stop that French President Emmanuel Macron has planned for his Chinese counterpart.
The Chinese president watched folk dance performances, enjoyed local cuisine, and engaged in informal talks on major world affairs.
We absolutely want to have an independent policy regarding our relationship with China, and in particular on those global issues where, well, of course, the role of China is important.
We could detect a lot of wisdom in the China's diplomacy. Although diplomacy or diplomatic affair or this kind of international affair are done by the political elites, well, after all, who would be benefited by the diplomacy? The people, right? So Chinese diplomacy is always be a people-centered diplomacy.
China's foreign policy in 2024 has paved the way for building a community with a shared future for mankind. The Chinese modernization process has also provided opportunities for the global community.
With a global vision, broad-mindedness, and sense of common good for humanity befitting the leader of a major party and a major country, President Xi has had in-depth strategic communications with global leaders and dignitaries to broaden converging interests for all and promote greater unity and cooperation of the international community.
From Europe to Central Asia and then Latin America, President Xi's trips abroad in 2024 have brought China solutions to all corners of the globe. As China paves its own way towards modernization, it has also drawn a new picture of common development for the vast number of countries in the global south. Zhao Yunfei, CGTN.
Well, let's look back together at China's diplomatic milestones in 2024, which is a year marked by significant strides in global cooperation and strengthened diplomatic ties. Now, in May, President Xi Jinping embarked on a series of high-profile visits to France, Serbia and Hungary, as you heard, where joint statements reaffirmed commitments to mutual cooperation and friendship. Also in May, Xi delivered a keynote address at the 10th ministerial meeting of the China-Arab States Cooperation Forum in Beijing, calling for deeper collaboration with Arab nations. In June, Beijing marked the 70th anniversary of the 5 Principles of Peaceful Coexistence. These are principles that have reshaped modern international relations, emphasizing sovereignty, equality, and mutual respect. 1 month later, Xi Jinping attended the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Astana in Kazakhstan, urging solidarity, trust, peace, prosperity, and good neighborliness. And fast forward to September, where the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, FOCAC, took place in Beijing. President Xi delivered a keynote speech proposing joint efforts to promote modernization and to build a shared future, further strengthening China-Africa ties. In October, at the BRICS summit in Kazan, President Xi advocated for peaceful coexistence and harmony between civilizations. Then a month later in November, Xi attended the 31st Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, where he emphasized shared responsibility and collective efforts to foster growth in the Asia-Pacific region. Later that month at the G20 summit, President Xi stressed the need for equitable governance and stronger international cooperation. And for some discussion on this, we're joined by Professor Rong Ying, Chair Professor at Sichuan University. Professor Rong, good to have you with us. So a series of major diplomatic activities throughout the year. What, in your view, are some of the highlights in terms of China's role in global affairs?
Well, certainly, I think the year 2024 will be remembered by the progress and achievement of China's diplomacy that has been made in an all-round and comprehensive way. I think the history will remember the year 2024 is going to be the most turbulent, uncertain world where we see changes, transformation, unprecedented, unseen in 100 years. And it is the Chinese diplomacy that has continuously, on the one hand, continuously built favorable external environment for China's pursuit of modernization. In the meantime, I think play a role, provide a kind of a stability and certainty for this turbulent and uncertain world. I think several several highlights which I thought need to call our attention. First and foremost, I think China's the vision of a building of community of shared future for mankind are now making making steady breakthrough. We have certainly the bilateral front, China and Brazil, China and Serbia have all agreed to work together to build that community of shared future. We're also seeing that between China and the sub-regional and regional level, China and Central Asia, China and ASEAN, China and Africa, China and the Arab world, and China and Latin America all have committed to working together for that, to make that vision possible. Second highlight, I would say that in this insecure and world, China's role of stability, of peace, have now more and more recognized. We have seen China as more and more proactive, not only in terms of providing visions initiated, but also working very closely with the countries and the international community on managing the conflicts like the Ukraine crisis, the Palestinian-Israel crisis, and other hotspot regional issues. Last but not least, I think that we also have seen that China's efforts in global governance by working together with the global South. So this is a very much eventful year for China's diplomacy.
Yeah, on that global South point, I mean, that's certainly been an emphasis this year, South-South cooperation, and you did mention China and Africa countries as well. FOCAC is the important mechanism for cooperation there. Can you tell us about some key initiatives launched under this framework and how they contribute to the sustainable development of Africa?
Yeah, I think China has been a very good friend, partners, and brothers of Africa, and has always been supporting and helping each other between China and Africa in terms of development, particularly in today's world. The Beijing summit of the FOCAC, I think, has produced a very important documents, the Beijing Declaration and the action plan for the next 3 years, making it possible for China and working together to jointly pursue their modernizations. And in this regard, China is committed to empower and help Africa at the 10 sort of areas, specifically in question on issues of trade investment, on the supply chain, and the green transition. So we're going to see more and more cooperation of mutual benefit in the next 3 years when these action plans are implemented.
Well, thank you so much for your insights. Appreciate it. Rong Ying, Chair Professor at Sichuan University. We're headed for a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you highlights of China's technology and culture in 2024. Stay tuned.
We are all connected. Across borders, across continents, connected by ideas, a shared humanity. Stay connected.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome back to China Chronicles 2024. And China has been a hot travel destination this year, fueled by expanded visa policies that's welcoming a wave of international visitors. And what stories are they bringing home? Well, Chen Yiling finds out.
This is insane. Wow.
The most beautiful city.
China is back on the world travel map. 2024 has seen a remarkable resurgence of international tourism to China. China recorded over 29 million inbound foreign visits in the first 11 months this year. Social media is also exploding with China travel, generating over 1 billion views, a number that's almost competing with the viewership of China's iconic Spring Festival Gala.
Welcome to Suzhou!
Taz and Libby of UK visit China 4 times through the year. They produced over 85 videos about China on their YouTube channel.
But I think we've done somewhere over 25, so it's about 26, 27 cities.
You know, it's opened our mind to so many different things. You know, we've tried so much food. We've just met the most friendly people.
While I was delving deeper into the China travel videos, I was intrigued by how often travelers describe China as being different from their initial perceptions. So I talked to a few of them about their experiences in China. Then I noticed some of your most viewed videos feature robot food delivery or cashless payment. I wonder, has your travel in China altered your perception of the country in any way?
For me, it's just perfect. Like everything from the infrastructure, modern transport, convenience. It's really like changed the way we view everything. It's just amazing.
If you come to China and if you go there and you see it with your own eyes, I mean, it's different. Because, I mean, you hear in the media many things, and I just didn't want to follow my direction and my expectations based on this. Living there and traveling there, I always felt welcomed. It's part of my passion, on my way to express in the daily life or things that you see in China that you don't see somewhere else.
For many vloggers, it's about sharing their authentic travel experiences and promoting understanding between cultures.
If you go back to our videos when we started vlogging in China, so the tone of the comments from even the Western viewers has changed so much, so much, because it was very apprehensive at the start when people were like, okay, is it safe, is it not safe, la la la. But from then till now, people are commenting saying, we can't wait to go and see China for ourselves. You guys have really shown us what China is really like, as opposed to what they hear in the media. And they are more understanding of how things are on the ground level through our eyes.
So easy.
Meanwhile, China has also been upgrading services to enhance the travel experience for foreign guests, including improved e-payment services, expedited car rentals, and the widespread use of multi-language signage.
China is opening the door wider and wider, so many visa-free policies, especially the unilaterally open the visa to so many countries. I think itself is a great gesture and a great action to attract more foreigners to understand China.
The message is clear. China is increasingly opening up to the world, offering abundant opportunities for business, study, and culture exchanges. Qinling, CGTN, Shanghai.
Now, for more on China's visa-free policies and the impact on international travel, we're joined by our reporter Yo Yang. Yo Yang, so talk us through some of China's policies to facilitate inbound travel and how these have impacted foreign visits to China this year.
Hello there, Jiaoyang. Well, China has been continuously optimizing its transit visa-free policy since last year. To date, the country has established comprehensive visa-free agreements with 26 countries, unilaterally provided visa-free policies for travelers from 38 nations, including France and Germany, and implemented transit visa exemptions for 54 countries. Additionally, China has mutual visa-free agreements with 157 countries and regions worldwide. Meanwhile, starting from December 17th, China introduced an update to its visa-free transit policy. The stay duration for foreign nationals eligible for visa-free transit has been extended from the previous 72 hours and 144 hours to 240 hours. The policy applied to travelers from 54 countries, including Russia, Brazil, the UK, the United States, and Canada, who transit through China en route to a third country or region. Additionally, 21 ports of entry and exit have been added for visa-free transit individuals. Those include airports in Chinese cities such as Taiyuan, Yangzhou, Yiwu, Hefei, Fuzhou, and more. According to the National Immigration Administration, from January to November, over 29 million foreign visits to China were recorded, a year-on-year increase of more than 86%. Of these, over 17 million benefit from visa-free entry, a rise of more than 123%. Notably, the visa-free transit policy has gained immense popularity domestically and internationally, such visa increasing over 132% year-on-year. Well, in fact, in recent months, video tagged with China travel received over 80 million views on foreign social media platforms, and visiting China right after leaving office on Friday has been a buzz phrase on social media in South Korea and other countries. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Yo Yang. Now, let's look at some of the rising stars of tourism across China this year. Earlier this month, I traveled to Chongqing to see what's put the southwestern city on the travel hot list and how relaxed visa policies are fueling interest and reshaping global perceptions of the country. As if millenniums of history itself isn't enough, China's treasured relics now have another thing going for them. These religious tableaus are carved directly into the cliffside, and the earliest of these rock carvings date back to about the 7th century. Now, this is one of the many locations that inspired the stunning world in the video game that took our world by storm this summer. Black myth Wukong etched Chinese history and culture like this here in Dazhou in mountainous Chongqing indelibly on the tourist map. And Dazhou has been riding on the popularity of its cameo appearance.
We took the scenes from Black Myth Wukong and brought them to life so that tourists can come for the Wukong experience, and that's boosted our visitor numbers. At Baoding Mountain alone, we've had 1.3 million visitors so far. That number and our revenues are up 116% from the same period last year. During the National Day holidays, we saw a record high of 23,000 visitors per day.
All over the country, places are raring to become the next travel sensation. China's tourism industry is still on the road to recovery after 3 years of the crippling pandemic. Experts predict 2024 will see domestic travellers closing in on 2019 numbers. The industry is optimistic that 2025 will mark its full rebound, and the country is helping to play catch-up. There is so much on offer here, and China wants to encourage more visitors to come by cutting visa requirements. So this year, more countries have been added to the visa exemption list, and more places across China are covered for short stays under the visa-free transit. Immigration authorities say more than half of foreign arrivals this year entered on these visa policies. Chongqing alone logged 3 times more foreign arrivals than last year.
For business, and we come more and more, that's clear. Yeah, and it's much easier then, because you can do this constantly and without a long-term planning.
Free Chinese visa would really help young people and incentivize travels here. And the more people that come here, the more you get to know about it. So yeah, that's also another consequence of free visa.
Vloggers from around the world are sharing their travel tips, do's and don'ts, and unusual experiences, dancing with pensioners in public squares, being serviced by robots and drones, and marveling at engineering feats. China is coveting more foreign tourist revenues. Even in 2019, their spending made up only 0.5% of GDP. In Thailand, for comparison, it's more than 10%. Industry representatives say beyond the obvious economic benefits, the visa exemptions are a message to the world that China is committed to opening up. And by hosting more visitors, also a way to dispel any misunderstandings and bias compounded by pandemic barriers. Traveling China comes with its own challenges, of course, and may not make everyone's bucket list, but for sure, these welcoming policies are generating curiosity. I mean, just look at the global social media chatter around #ChinaTravel. Enormous video content, the bulk of which posted in the past year or so. So the real picture of China, you'll have to come see for yourself. Jiao Yang, CGTN, Chongqing. The city of Harbin in the northeast is certainly a hot travel sensation this year, driven by the 240-hour visa-free transit policy and the success of its ice and snow tourism season. Harbin Airport alone welcomed 136,000 foreign travelers this year. That's an over 180% increase. Our reporter Zheng Songwu is in the city, reflecting on how it became a hotspot for international visitors.
I'm on Central Street, a bustling tourist attraction in Harbin City, and the longest pedestrian street in Asia. With the Winter Games approaching, the winter season is thriving, attracting an increasing number of international travelers to the city, bolstered by China's 240-hour transit visa-free policy. Officials have reported that Harbin's airport saw 500,000 tourist trips this year, including nearly 140,000 from global visitors. Since the opening of the Ice and Snow World theme park, international travelers have shown greater interest in the city. Harbin welcomed its largest ever charter flight of tourists from Southeast Asia, with 377 visitors from Thailand and other countries. Heilongjiang officials estimate that 30,000 tourists from Southeast Asia will visit Harbin this winter. To accommodate the influx of international tourists, the province have taken several measures. A total of 360 taxi drivers as well as retirees are learning English to assist the visitors during the Asian Winter Games. Flights from Harbin to Bangkok have been increased to 3 per week, and flights to Seoul and Tokyo will each increase by 7 per week. International groups can apply for visas online, with green channels available for those looking to extend their stay. Additionally, over 13,000 POS machines and 70 currency exchange stations have been installed at hotels and tourist attractions across the province.
Well, when we talk about China's travel scene in 2024, one catchphrase comes to mind. That's city, bu city, which translates to city or not city. As one of the top 10 Chinese buzzwords of this year, this phrase captures the essence of China's unique blend of modernity and tradition. CGTN spoke with the creator of this phrase, Paul Mike Ashton, also known by his online persona, Bao Bao Xiong. He discussed how this phrase evolved into a cultural phenomenon and shared his thoughts on China's increasing openness to international visitors.
I think one of the reasons that city resonated with people is that I think part of China sort of opening up over the last year and welcoming new tourists in, I think a lot of people are sort of embracing and trying to exemplify a more international Chinese culture than existed before. I think a lot of people, especially a lot of the demographic that picked up on city early on, I think were a lot of younger folks. And I think that the younger populations have lived in a very international type of China. And so having this English and Chinese phrase really kind of exemplifies, I think, the lifestyle that they oftentimes live, which is one that engages with the rest of the world. It's not just a Chinese thing. It's not just for Chinese people. Foreigners are also enthusiastic about what's going on in China. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of value of what it brings. China expanding the visa-free policy, I think, is kind of the big impetus behind seeing China travel sort of become a new thing. I mean, typically speaking, you know, I've been in China now for 7 years, and I did a tourism master's here. And one of the big hurdles for a lot of travelers, especially from the US, is the visa policies. They're things that we're not typically familiar with. We're kind of spoiled oftentimes, from the US at least, with a lot of the travel that we do. And I've always made the argument that it's worth it. It's worth the time, the energy to come and see. But now there is an opportunity to see. There is really very little from like the administrative perspective blocking people from going and seeing. So that's naturally going to arouse a lot more curiosity. And one of the things that I got interested in with China was because of the fact that it is such a key international player. You hear so much about China on the news. It is such an important part of the world today. And so I think that that has definitely kind of come together to create a lot more interest into what China has to offer, not just from a business or political perspective, but also from a travel and pleasure perspective.
2024 has also been a landmark year for innovation in China, with the country rising to 11th place in the World Intellectual Property Organization's global rankings. So let's look back over some of China's most significant scientific and technological achievements of the year. China's manned space program completed 4 missions in 2024, including 2 Tianzhou cargo spacecraft and 2 Shenzhou crewed spacecraft, transporting a total of 6 astronauts to its space station. The Chang'e 6 lunar mission returned to Earth after 53 days, bringing back lunar soil from the moon's far side. Chinese scientists also discovered molecular water in lunar samples for the first time. China's first domestically designed ocean drilling vessel, the Dream, entered service, enhancing deep-sea resource exploration. The Shenzhen-Zhongshan Link, which is a world-class sea-crossing cluster of bridges, islands, tunnels and underwater interchanges, opened to traffic. And in Antarctica, China inaugurated its 5th research station, the Qinling Station, filling a critical research gap in the Ross Sea region. Now, 2024 has also been a breakthrough year for Chinese culture on the global stage. In July, China added 3 World Heritage Sites, including Beijing Central Axis, bringing its total to 59. In December, UNESCO inscribed the Spring Festival social practices of the Chinese people in celebration of the traditional New Year onto its representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Traditional Li textile techniques, Tiang New Year Festival and traditional Chinese wooden arch bridges have also been elevated to that list. And with 44 items now on UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list, China solidified its position as a global leader in cultural heritage. And according to the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, China is home to over 760,000 immovable cultural relics and has a 4-tier intangible cultural heritage inventory, recognizing more than 100,000 representative items and 90,000 inheritors. CGTN's Li Dongying recently took a journey on the Great Beijing Central Axis sightseeing bus. And this newly designed vintage-style tourist bus offers a unique chance to explore the cultural heart of Beijing. The journey along the city's Central Axis showcases 15 iconic locations that were once the backbone of the ancient capital.
In 2024, Beijing's Central Axis was officially inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List. From the Yuan Dynasty's Dadu to modern Beijing, this axis has stood for over 700 years. It is not only a masterpiece of ancient urban planning, but also a living map that chronicles Chinese civilization.
This is Zhengyangmen, or Qianmen, meaning the front gate, a prominent landmark at the midpoint of Beijing's Central Axis. And this magnificent Central Axis spans 7.8 kilometers, stretching from the Drummond Bell Tower in the city's north to Yongdingmen in the city's south. To help people better understand the charm of the Central Axis, the Beijing Tourism Hub introduced this magnificent Central Axis sightseeing bus. And this retro-style bus is not only a way to get around, it's like stepping into a time machine. You may ask, how so? Well, today let's hop on, take in the sights, and dive into the fascinating history and culture that bring the Central Axis back to life. Let's go.
您好，欢迎乘坐大美中轴观光巴士。欢迎大家乘坐大美中轴观光巴士。我们的车辆呢会从前门出发，经过永定门北到。
Well, as we ride the bus, every view outside the window tells a story of the long history and vibrant culture. The buildings along the way are not just landmarks. They are pieces of a puzzle that show how ancient Chinese city planning balanced order and harmony. And with our tour guide stories, these sites come alive, connecting its rich past to the present.
The successful inscription of the Central Axis as a World Heritage Site has breathed new life into Beijing's cultural and tourism industries. Innovations like sightseeing buses transform historical heritage from static relics into living, interactive experiences.
怎么想起一家子来参加这个路线的旅游呢？
因为今年听说咱们这个中轴申遗成功了，中轴线路，并且呢开了一条大美中轴线这么一条观光车，所以呢我决定带着家人一块来体验一下。
慢达我的图板助位厅。
On the bus, traditional clapper storytelling performance, providing everyone with a tangible and lively experience of Beijing's culture. Here we are at our final stop, the iconic Drummond Bell Towers, marking the northern end of the Central Axis. But the axis is not just a line on a map. It's the soul of Beijing, carrying all the stories through time. So no matter where you're from, the Central Axis invites you to walk its path, feel its history, and connect with the beauty and depth of Chinese culture.
And that brings us to the end of our stories from 2024. It's been quite a year, from inspiring victories to lessons learned through challenges faced. And as 2024 comes to an end, we'll have hopes and prospects to look forward to for 2025. So from me, Jiao Yang, and the rest of the team, we wish you a very happy 2025 rather. And we'll leave you with a look at some of the special moments from this year.